Okay, there we go. Now we're back. Um, had to flip the camera around. So I'm jumping on here today just to talk a little bit about the flipped classroom. So we're moving towards this digital content, digital learning. And so I wanted to kind of speak from my experience of what that looks like. Um, so let me tell you a little bit about myself, and then I'll kind of go into what I did with the flip classroom and how that relates to what's happening kind of today. Um, so my name is Antonia Watts. I'm running for Board of Education here in District 2 in Howard County, Maryland. Um, and I am a certified teacher. I'm certified in Maryland in secondary mathematics and as well as physics. And I've taught in the classroom, that kind of thing. So, in my very, let me first start off by saying why I tried the flipped classroom, like what even got me to try this. This was my first year. This was my first year teaching, and towards the end of the year, towards the end of the year, I was really recognized that I needed more time. I needed more time with my students. I needed more time with the students that needed me the most. I needed them to have more time to process the lesson. I just really needed more time with my students. And so I thought about, I'd read about the flipped classroom when I was in grad school at Michigan, as kind of this idea of this new trend that was coming. And so I decided to try it, and just to see how it worked. And so let me explain what the flipped classroom is and how it works. So for me, using the flipped classroom, I really wanted to make sure my students saw me. So I know some people that when they do the flipped classroom, they'll take a video from like a Khan Academy or something like that, and then post those videos for their kids to watch. But for me, I really wanted my students to be able to see their own teacher. It was important that this was a new thing that was coming out. They had never done it. I was teaching seventh graders. They had never done this before. Um, so very low tech, I just set up a video camera of myself and I just taught my students like I normally would. I had my like smart board behind me and I would point out, and you can see that I talk with my hands. So I would point to things that I wanted them to pay attention to and that kind of thing. Um, and it was, and so they could always see me. And then I took that video and then I published it to actually a third party website because our school couldn't even support the video. So I published it to a third party website and then I pushed that link out to my students. And then their homework was to just watch the video. That was it. So it was a 10-minute little short video at home that they could just watch, and then the next day they would come in to the classroom and then we would do what would traditionally be considered their homework. So in the classroom, I would give a little mini assessment just to see who understood what was happening. And then I could divide them up into groups according to their understanding. So we got to do like a lot more small group things, and I got to give them exactly what they needed. So for the kids that understood the material, and I know that they understood the material, I could design extensions for them that allow them to apply what they had watched on the video into real world concepts. And so it was like just delivered for them. And then for the kids that, um, kind of got it, but they needed a little more practice, they got exactly that. They got a little more practice, and then they got to move into these extension activities. And then for the kids that really needed more time with me, the whole point of me doing it, they got more time with me. So I was actually able to sit with them and talk about these ideas and these concepts. And so instead of me working with this group of 28 students at one time, I was actually able to really sit down with a group of seven, or so it bought me the time that I'd always needed with them. Um, and so the pros for this kind of delivery model was that the homework was always 10 minutes. It was exactly 10 minutes. So I know that when I was in seventh grade, my mom worked two jobs. She's looking. Hi, mom. My mom worked two jobs, so she wasn't always home in the evening to walk me through any struggles that I was having with homework. So if I didn't if I didn't get it in school when I got home, some of this, and then also some of this was out of reach. Like by the time I got to like chemistry and physics in high school, some of that was just, my parents did 20 years later. They don't remember what was happening. So it gave me homework that was always 10 minutes for my students. And the parents also enjoyed it because it freed them up a little bit. So they didn't have to kind of sit with their child during, while they're trying to make dinner and it's getting home from work and try to, remember algebra and how to walk their kids through the simple problem or the sample problem. And so my parents really bought into it as well, because now they could also watch the video and they could understand what was happening as far as, this was the height of Common Core. Common Core was being rolled out, and they could understand what's happening with Common Core math as well. So my parents really liked it. And my English language learners also could watch the video a second time. So they could slow me down, they could pause me, they could write again. And this is also, I mean, I'm saying ELL, but also my students that just needed a second view really got the opportunity to watch this again and tailor the learning to them. Um, and another pro that I had was that I was preparing my students for 21st century learning. Um, they were in seventh grade, and it's funny because right now they're like sophomores in high school. Sophomores in college right now. So it's funny to think about that. But anyway, they had always been consumers of content. Like they watch TV or they watch videos and they just kind of consume content, but they didn't really understand how to take that knowledge that they were getting and apply it in an academic setting. So that was one of the things that they were learning how to do. They were learning how to really be 21st century learners. Um, and kind of this, to talk about, to put those two things together, they were uncomfortable with it. They were uncomfortable with moving with this shift, because all of a sudden they had to learn in a different way. And so that is one of the challenges that you're going to see as this online digital content learning comes forward, is that students are not used to learning this way. It's going to take them some time to make the shift. They're used to, watching, like, usually their digital content is fun and funny, and they're not usually applying it. Unless, I mean, I guess it's TikTok, unless you're watching TikTok videos, but like they're usually not applying this learning. So there is going to be a little bit of a growing pain there, that students are going to have to kind of shift their mindset. But my students found that they could control the pace of things, and that really helped too. Um, and so, and one of the other things I did, and I would suggest that, if you're a teacher and you're watching this and you're moving to digital learning, is to make your first video one that explains how to watch the videos or how to consume this content. So for my students, my very first video was, what are you gonna see? So I made a video and we actually just watched it in class, as a whole class. So they were just watching me teach them, because um, because they just hadn't done it before. So I made a video. We walked through it together as a class, and I paused it and said, like, okay, you can pause this at home. You can write this down if you need to. You can stop and come back at another time. You just have to kind of set the table for them so that they know how to interact with it. It's just new. Um, and so that will really be important. And even like a video on how to navigate the space that you're using. So I just showed them, I mean, it was a very simple platform I was using, but just show them where to pause. I mean, it sounds simple, but there's going to be a learning curve here, and you want to try to give them as much upfront as possible to kind of mitigate some of these problems later on. And one thing a problem that everybody is kind of talking about right now is access. Who has the device? Who has devices that can play the content? Who has internet and Wi-Fi? And I think those are going to be very, you know, it's going to be a challenge to address those issues. Um, and make sure that everybody has access to this. So when I did the flipped classroom, I was very fortunate in that the flipped classroom is a blended model. So some of it happens at home, some of it happens in school. Um, and I could actually show the video to my students in homeroom. If they didn't have access to the content at home, I could show it at the very beginning of the day, and then they could watch the video. And it was nice because I could say, hey, I'm playing this a second time if you guys want to come and watch it again. And so that's something that's going to definitely have to be addressed, and how to give students basically how to meet them where they are. I know some households that have multiple kids that are in school, and we're going to have to really talk about, do we have enough devices for everybody in house for things to happen at the same time? Parents are working from home now, so that's maybe two more devices that are out of the mix. So that's something that's definitely going to have to be addressed. Um, but so yeah, that's we'll cross that road too. One more thing that I wanted to say that was um, kind of a challenge was me as a teacher. It was a ton of work. It was a lot of work to get this. I was changing entirely how I taught. So usually my kids were used to me making basically what's a PowerPoint on my smartboard and kind of teaching them, and I would stop and we would do like little things in class um, and go from there. But like I had to remake the entire lesson, like everything I was planning on using for that unit. I just kind of had to toss out and revamp. Like even what I was displaying on the smartboard was not the same. Um, and I had to be ahead of my students, like a lot farther ahead than I was normally used to, because I had to give myself enough time to create the video, um, upload it to whatever site. And I remember it taking like 35 minutes for one video to get uploaded. So hopefully, in 8 years, that's better. But it would take a lot of time to upload the video. And then I had to maybe send it out. And then I had to design every single thing that we were doing in the classroom setting. So all of those real world extensions, all of those like additional problems, like the one-on-one tutoring, all of that was a lot of time. Um, and I say this because I know people are hoping for this online learning to happen much faster and sooner than it has happened. But I will tell you, from a teacher standpoint, it was a lot of work, and it was so much work that I had to like ask a teacher across the hall, like, hey, do you want to do this with me? We were on pretty much the same pace, and I was like, do you want to work together so that we can like really get this done? Um, and she said yes, so that was super helpful. But it was still a ton of work to kind of change your entire model. I talked to a friend who does. She works for a company, and they really do online courses, and she said that just for them to do an hour's worth of content takes, I don't know, she said something like 15 to 20 hours for them to make that single hour's worth of material. So all this to say that I know that everybody is really hoping for digital learning to kind of help get us over this hump. Um, and there's a lot of great things about it, and kids really they'll amaze you, right? They're awesome at learning these kinds of things, and they'll pick it up, and they will grasp this change, and it will be new, and there's going to be growing pains. Um, so, and especially since there's some people that, a lot of people that have not experienced this. I know that there's teachers like that have never had to deliver their content. There are policymakers that don't understand like some of the challenges that are involved at the classroom level. So just really, my plea is to just be patient. And we're all like learning this. Everybody's just trying to make it through the best that they can. And for working parents, like just do your best. Like I had a working mom, and my parents worked, and so I know that this would be a challenge for them to try to get their jobs done and to manage my learning at home. So just be patient. We'll get through this. And offer up any constructive suggestions that you may have that you think somebody can benefit from. I know this is why I'm like in part making this video, is because I feel like, you know, I have something to offer. I've done this before, and maybe this will help anybody watching this. So that's my deal for today. And thank you guys for tuning in. I see some familiar faces, and I love having the support. So I will wrap this up, and hopefully I can hit finish and not like knock something over. But have a good day, and it's nap time in my house. So that's why it's so quiet. And so enjoy the rest of your day. All right, bye.